Our second session of the day is the book launch of Hindus of Hindu Rashtra by Anand Ranganathan, published by Blue One Inc., followed by a book discussion. This book has topped the Amazon charts for many weeks now, and we at PLF are delighted to launch it formally. The book is available exclusively at the Ink section of the PLF bookstall, and you can get your copy signed by Anand after the session. Please remain seated after this session, as Vikram Sampath would like to address you for 5 minutes afterwards. We invite Anand Ranganathan, Professor JNU, author and columnist. Advocate Vishnu Shankar Jain, lawyer, Supreme Court of India. Dr. Meenakshi Jain, historian. Dr. Ratan Sharda, author. This session will be moderated by Alo, our festival director.
Good evening and welcome to this final session of the opening day of the Literary Festival. It is indeed my absolute privilege to moderate this session for this wonderful book written by Anand. I'm using the word wonderful just like he does, and but it really is an effort by a Darwinian atheist to make us Hindus realize exactly where we are today with relation to our future and what we hold dear with the polity and the judiciary and the administrative unit that we have in India today. I don't think there is a more fact-filled compilation and presentation of data with so much heart that empowers us with so much knowledge. I don't think there is another parallel. So without much ado, I'd like to go to very quickly actually, because Anand is very keen to give the audience a chance to ask questions. So I actually have just about 40 minutes to go through all the points. So the first chapter that he talks about among the 8th class citizenship characteristic that we Hindus find ourselves today is the state control of temples. So Meenakshi ji, now that you're here with us at the Lit Fest, can you tell us, we know that the invaders looted our temples, but when did this institutionalized control of our temple wealth start? Is it a British enlightened policy?
No. Contrary to the general impression, the early Englishmen were fascinated.
There's a problem with the mic.
Yeah, I think now it's clear.
Is it clear now? Can you all hear me? No.
Can we have a handheld mic? Yeah. No, we have.
So how do you know that you So good evening. I have to first congratulate
Hold it closer to me.
Anand on writing a book which will appeal to every right-thinking Hindu and Indian. Now you asked me about
Whose policy?
state control of temples.
Yes.
Now, as a historian, I begin everything by looking back. And it is so fascinating that early officials of the East India Company were absolutely fascinated with the temples and the rituals they observed. And Warren Hastings, the first Governor General of India, is on record going every Sunday to the Kali Ghat temple in Kolkata and paying respects to the mother. There are accounts that we have of early Englishmen attending the Rath Yatra in Orissa and writing about it. And there are so many accounts of early company officials participating in temple rituals for, appealing to the rain gods that please shower rains on us. So there are so many examples. Now, this attitude of early Englishmen, contrary to the general impression that we have, it alarmed two groups of people. One were the British missionaries who did not appreciate this policy of the early Englishmen, and the East India Company, which said that, you're becoming Indianized, you know more about Indian culture than about your own. So kindly start remaining aloof from this. Now, from that period, one would think that when India got independence, the rulers would take as much pride in temples and their rituals as the colonial rulers had done before this. But it did not happen. Why is it so? It is because of the ascendancy of atheists, rationalists, and a particular ideology which became dominant in a part of India. I can say South India. And the other factor that tilted the scale against temples was the envy at the so-called wealth of these temples. It was not realized that barring a few temples that were rich, most temples did not fall in that category. The temples were given large grants of land. They were supposed to run their affairs on the basis of the revenue that they got from agricultural land. Now, after independence, there was a particular ideology in a particular part of India that encouraged the tenants to occupy those agricultural lands, with the result that the temple income just fell to nothing. Just two examples I want to give. The Brihadeshwar temple, it's one of the pride of India. In 1983, it had to stop worship for a day because there was no money to offer food to the deity. In 2018, the Madras High Court asked the HRCE department to please tell us where 50,000 acres of agricultural land had disappeared. It has just disappeared from the books. So you can imagine the kind of assault that has been done to the temples in independent India. And I just hope that Anand is one of the first persons who has written on this issue, and I hope it creates a lot of awareness on this issue.
So Ratanji, my question to you is, considering the fact that we have a so-called fascist Hindutva party at the center, and the same party leading in many states, where is the Hindutva-ness when it comes to control of Hindu temples?
Thanks, Anuji. Before I answer, I have one or two observations to make. One is this particular Lit Fest. This Lit Fest actually represents the cream of Sanatan Dharma scholars. So if all that Congress has to do is take a photograph and eradicate them as when they get a chance to form the government again. Second question is to Anand. Before I ask Anand, a lot of people have talked about the data. Of course, I have also done a lot of data on this, except Waqf Board, I knew the data, but to present all that 30 seconds, his famous 30 seconds, into just a small booklet, which is a bomb of a booklet, where I don't want to search anywhere that one book you want to feel victim, or you want to feel angry, or you want to feel dissatisfied, that's the book for Hindus. Now my question to Anand before I start is, what are the turning point in your thinking? Because I don't think you were a Hindutvadi or Hindu Dharma follower earlier. I've seen the change from 1992 basically, beginning with Girilal Jain, not because she's sitting here, a respected father, because I saw that. 92 saw the churning of the intellectual minds, and a lot of people turned around thinking what's going on. After the Babri incident, then was 2014 was the next turning point. So for you, what was the turning point?
Asking you.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you very much.
Is your mic working?
Your mic, yeah. I think you better hold it.
Yeah. Yeah, first of all, thanks very much to the organizers, Pathada, Ajit, Alo. It's almost a ritual for me. It's a privilege and an honor to be back here at PLF. And also, thank you so much for launching the book. And thank you to Meenakshi ji and to Vishnu ji.
Close it.
Yeah, close it. For providing their quotes for the book. When the book is sprinkled with greatness, the success is almost predetermined. And thank you to Jay Sai for the foreword and Vikram for the afterword. So when a book is sandwiched by greatness, then what more can I say? So I'm truly blessed in that sense. And of course, we will talk a little bit about the book and parts of it. But to answer Ratanji, first of all, thank you so much, Ratanji, as well, for being here. Is there an echo with two mics or maybe? Yeah. Okay. I think this is better. Yeah. So so his question was, when was the turning point? To be honest with you, I think the turning point, there wasn't just one day. I was drowning in ignorance, which most people were, but especially me, because this wasn't my domain at all. And as a practicing scientist, and before that as a student of science, really didn't get a lot of chance to, leave alone discuss, to even learn about the non-scientific issues. So I was blissfully unaware of so many things that now I am aware of. So there wasn't just one turning point. There were many. And I think the principle amongst them, I've talked about, there have been recent phenomena. I would say last 6 or 7 years, ever since I started writing. And I think, so I can say, if not 8 turning points, it's certainly 5 turning points. The other 3 are as very late as 1 year or 1.5 years ago, when Vishnu ji talked so authoritatively about Waqf Act. I didn't even know that this act existed. So that wasn't the turning point. That was just reinforcing that, yes, we are 8th class citizens. So it wasn't like, oh my God, what's going on here? I think the biggest turning point in that sense was having 7 lakh Hindu refugees in their own land. I still can't get my head around it, that there isn't a large country which has its majority population as refugees in that country. I mean, are there American refugees in America? Are there British refugees in Britain? I mean, German refugees in Germany. It's unthinkable. So, but there are 7 lakh, and cutting across ideologies, across governments, they have remained so for 33 years. I mean, that's just, so that was one. What's going on here? The other one was, I think, in one sense, Places of Worship Act, certainly. And I think that was one of the most painful chapters to write, because it's just so absurd that you just want to cry out for justice to be given. And I've written there that, according to me, what separates empires from civilizations? How civilizations carry on, and empires most times crumble to dust. And the reason is that we have this, this thirst to deliver justice for our ancestors. That is what symbolizes continuity, And if you read Meenakshi Jain's book, Meenakshi ji's book, about how now we are, I mean, I can say with a bit of, in a mocking terms, that we are Hindus in Hindu Rashtra. But imagine Hindus in Aurangzeb Rashtra, or imagine Hindus in Mughal Rashtra. What our ancestors went through. 4.6 million were, just murdered through a genocide. But away from that, then you realize what she has written, that painfully, day by day, they hid the idols. They removed the idols. They put it in a well. They dug, 10 feet. They buried the idol there and told their sons and daughters and, their grandchildren, one day you may, dig this up again and do a sthapna of the idol. Centuries ago. Is that not what continuity is? And if we stop thinking about it, then I think there's no point in talking about the great Hindu civilization, according to me. And I stress on this point, and I've stressed here as well, that it's a crying shame that people think of this as a Hindu struggle. It's an Indian struggle. So, I mean, it befuddles me, and why non-Hindus in our country, and I don't mean Vishnuji, because the one who's holding the flame aloft of, fighting for Hindus is now a minority, Vishnu Jain, who has 115 cases right now to reclaim for something for Hindus. It's just, it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. So I think when you read about that, and then of course, by 4 or 5 years ago, I had read the Allahabad High Court judgment on the Ram Temple, and how historian after quack historian was called to the court. And all those very authoritatively comments were made that, oh, I know that there was no Hindu temple underneath, that there was a mosque and it wasn't demolished, temple wasn't, and all that stuff. And each one of them were so, I think, even mediocre is a term that would give respect to them. It's just astonishing how they were able to con this country, starting from Irfan Habib and so many others. And the court, basically castigated them. And they said that, the plaques and the reliefs were stolen from Lucknow Museum and brought there to be discovered from. And then after the Ayodhya judgment, when the digging started, I remember Meenakshi ji sent frantic DMs to us, Alo, if you remember. And 2 days ago, there is a tweet by the gentleman who's in charge of the Ram Mandir. That's right. And there are about 7 or 8 photographs of the idols, the reliefs, the plaques, the murals that have been excavated after the Ayodhya judgment at that site. How somebody can say this was not a Hindu temple is just beyond me. I think so it's a collection of these points that, what have we been fed? And if we don't have stalwarts like Vishnu ji, Meenakshi ji to teach the younger generation to take that flame and, that mashal and pass it on, it would be a biggest tragedy we can think of. That was.
One thing, that all the Hindus in this audience, when you get back Mathura and Gyanvapi, please thank 2 Jains.
Let me clarify, it's Meenakshi Jain and Vishnu Jain, not Vineet Jain.
Vishnu ji, I'll combine 2 points. One is, your point. Okay.
I don't know, escape the
If you can just quickly do that. Okay, tell me, why is the BJP still controlling
one more
temples?
thing. And Anand, he writes very incisively, very surgically. One particular sentence has struck me. It is profound sentence which will be actually the hallmark of book. That is, Hindu Dharma is defined by the way of life, and in Abrahamic religions, the religion defines the way of life. I have been studying Abrahamic religion vis-a-vis Hindu religions. I have been debating, I have been writing, but this particular sentence I have heard for the first time, if I had heard it earlier. That is the most profound thing I have written in the book. Now, coming to the question, what is happening to the Hindu Rashtra? First of all, Hindu Rashtra in mind is already there. By law, it is not there yet. Secondly, the question is not so simple. In fact, me and Vishnu were together in one of the meetings just a few weeks back, and we discussed the point that we have so many kinds of temples. I am not denying that temple needs to be freed. Please be very sure. I want temples to be run by Hindus, not by secular or so-called bureaucrats. In fact, biggest fight I had with Arnab Goswami was about who controls the temples. And that is when I got all these facts together. Issue is that we have family temples, we have got Kula temples, we have got village temples, we have got what you can call Sampradaya temples, we have got large temples which are controlled by a few pujaris, and there are temples which are controlled by the government. What should be the right kind of management? There is no uniform fit at all to all of these. So, what do? Hindu society has never been able to have a hierarchy where the top decides how the temples will be run, how particular ritual will be done. So probably the right solution is to remove the government and have the right kind of controls on how temple will run, a kind of manual SOP, that all the temples are run well. I know of private temples which are in horrible conditions, controlled by the families, which were lakhs of people. You go to Mathura Vrindavan, you'll find them. You know what is the condition of Vishnu Devi before the governor took it over. I have been going to there since my childhood. So there are too many complex questions. Answer is not simple, but yes, it has to be taken in from the government. When it can be done, it is not being discussed, especially at the level of RSS, VHP. It has been discussed at least for the last 3-4 years with all the acharyas, all the pramukhs, and they agree that it is not easy to find a solution where they'll say, okay, there is an apex body and there are temples being controlled by the apex body. That's difficult, because then you have people like secular people are trying to secularize Kali Ghat, turn it to a tourist spot. So when these people turn up to control the temples, the pilgrim centers become tourist spots. That is the problem. But yes, it is to be done. But it's a long civilizational battle. On any point, to bring Hindus together on any one point is as difficult as RSS of for last 98 years. Those 98 years have brought to a stage where an Anand can come up and speak about something what RSS has not done. So I think that's a tribute to the Hindu Samaj, that it takes so much of long time to come out of stupor where people wake up and say, oh, something is going wrong. Even today, if you talk of Sanatan Dharma, you have Hindus fighting on the TV saying what is not wrong with what DMK says. And lastly, on the Jain, that actually proves that we are truly a Sanatan Dharma. Both Jains fighting for a...
But just that one thing I learned and understood from reading Hindus of Hindustan from your book is that practice was never top down. Practice was dictated, the Dharma Shastras were dictated by practice bottom up. So maybe we should go back to that. But now I have to give Vishnuji the parole, please. Meenakshi, can we just do this? I'm going to quote you. So Vishnuji, you'll have to combine two of the things. One is, of course, on the Waqf board, and then maybe weave in what they enjoy and the privileges that we don't when temples are not controlled. So I'm quoting from her book on Ayodhya, where this particular judgment was passed on the Waqf. So on the 28th of October 1991, Justices S.C. Mathur, Brijesh Kumar and S.H.A. Raza of the Allahabad High Court delivered a judgment on a petition by Muhammad Hashim versus State of UP against a notification issued by the state government for acquiring a piece of land in village Kot Ramchandar Courts for the development of tourism and providing amenities for the pilgrims of Ayodhya. Muhammad Hashim alleged that the notified land was Waqf property and could not be acquired under the Land Acquisition Act. Its real purpose was to destroy the Babri Masjid and transfer the land to some organization to construct the temple thereon. The judges held that prima facie, even Waqf property could be acquired. So from there, what have we come to from what Anand describes in the book?
First of all, I would like to thank the PLF. I would like to thank the PLF for having me here, and I would definitely thank Mr. Anand Ranganathan for writing this tremendous book. I think this book is an eye-opener for all of us, and the second part of this book, I have requested Anand sir to launch it soon, because we are not just 8th class citizens. There are so many legal points which I am going to bring to his knowledge. That second edition will come where he will describe whether we are 16th class citizen or 20th class citizen. So the point is this, that as you rightly told, that it has been held by the Allahabad High Court that Waqf properties can be acquired, and that judgment was affirmed by the Supreme Court in a reference in Ismail Faruqi in 1992, where the Supreme Court held that any religious property can be acquired. But deviating from the question for a moment, I just wanted to say something upon this temple acquisition. See, I'll just tell you through my professional experience. I'm handling as of now a case, just as an example, that how draconian this temple acquisition is. And I agree with Mr. Ratan Sharda that temple acquisition is, it's actually not a solution to a problem. Kindly understand this issue. See, there's a temple in Karnataka where Lord Hanuman was born, and it's known as Hanuman Janmabhoomi. So the priest of that temple, he's from Ramanandi Sampradaya. He worshipped that temple as a hereditary trustee from time immemorial. after he made that temple Jagrit through his puja and archana, the government had an eye over that temple, because around 1 CR of amount is coming as an offering per month. Per month. So immediately the government took over the temple. I am fighting that case in the Karnataka High Court in Dharwad bench. From past 5 years, there is no hearing in the matter. The priest is running from pillar to post to get back his temple. I can't describe you in words that what's the relationship between a Shibayat with a deity. Because under Hindu law, a deity is treated as a perpetual minor. A Shibayat deals with him, it's like a relationship of a mother and a child. So temple acquisition, the government is looking from the eyes of profiteering, from the eyes of taking money. I give a solution, and I have a very interesting thing for you all. There is a act called Dargah Khwaja Sahib Bylaws 1958. You will not find, that's why I'm saying next book will come. 9 class citizen, 10 class citizen. Dargah Khwaja Sahib Bylaws 1958. In this act, there is section 18. So all the offerings by a Musalman in this Dargah, he will choose as to how you have to spend that offering. There is no such provision for a Hindu or for any other class of citizen in this country. So if you take away the temple from its offerings, there will be no acquisition. This entire fight of acquisition is going on because of the offerings. If government is so much interested in tackling the temple, in maintaining the temple, let's give a government a solution that whatever offerings are coming, first of all, the offerings which are coming, they are not fair. They are not, you can say, very transparent about the offerings. And all the offerings are siphoned off. So first of all, you have to be very, very...
And also let people know they're all text. The only income of temple is text, not of church, nor of mosque.
Yes. So whatever offerings are coming, you have to first of all say that these offerings will be given to a common fund and let government control the temple. There will be no control. The control of the government is because of the offerings. Point number 1. Now coming to the Waqf Act. See, in his book, very esteemed Mr. Anand Ranganathan has highlighted various provisions of Waqf Act. But I will also tell you certain various provisions of Waqf Act which are very, very draconian and which makes us feel that we are not second class citizens, we are 8th, 10th, 15th class citizens. Section 4, 5 and 6 of the Waqf Act. There is a survey of Waqf properties which happens in every 10 years. Do you know that the money of that survey is borne by the state government through taxpayers' money under Section 8? Now I ask a question to myself, that is there any provision where the properties of Hindu temples or of Hindu religion is monitored by the state government and the money of that survey is borne by the expenditure of state government? There is no such provision to my knowledge. And I asked this on national televisions to various legal luminaries, no answer has come. The second most draconian provision under the Waqf Act is Section 40 subclause 1 and Section 40 subclause 3, where the Waqf board can declare any property as Waqf property. And the person whose property is declared as Waqf property, he will not be even informed that his property has been declared as Waqf property. And if the property is of a trust or a society, the society or the trust will not get the communication that their property has been acquired as the Waqf property. The registrar of the trust or the society will get the communication. And we know what happens in the office of registrar and the registrars of the societies. All these communications are just thrown away. And after 1 year, that order will become final if you don't challenge it in the Waqf tribunal. So ultimately, because of this mechanism, the Waqf is the third largest owner of land in the country after defense and railway. And these are the statistics of 2008 by Andhra Pradesh High Court. We are 15 years down the line. If anyone again checks up, I think it will be the first or the second. So this is Section 40 for you. Then for us, if someone encroaches upon our property, what is the law? If you will ask any lawyer, he'll say, go and fight a case in the civil suit, in the civil court by way of a civil suit. For Waqf, the provision is under Section 53 and 54. They can issue a direction to the district magistrate and the SSP to remove the encroachment and submit a report. under section 53 and 54. No such provision is there. Forget about Hindus for any other class of citizens in this country. Then apart from that, there is Waqf tribunal under section 83 and 85, where the members of Muslim community will be heading the tribunal, will be a part of the tribunal. So ultimately you are asking me to go before a Sharia court. So you are the judge, jury and the prosecutor. Then apart from that, I want to ask this question to everyone with lot of sense of responsibility, that I have not come across any law till date through my legal learning that any pujari, priest, Shankarachar, Mahant, Pithadishwar has been declared as public servant in this country. None I have come across. But under the Waqf Act 1995, under section 101, the members of the Waqf board and their mutwallis and in the Waqf deed, everyone is declared as public servant. So it means that even if you touch them, it's an offense under the IPC under section 27. Then apart from that, it's not the end of the story. Two more sections I want to point out. Then
Baskar Pagle rulayega kya?
Then under Waqf Act 1995, section 107 is there. Meenakshi ji is here. In Ram Mandir's case, the very age-old concept that Hindu deity is a perpetual minor and it can come to court at any point of time is diluted by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has held that if deity wants to come to the court and if there is no shibayat, then only they can come and Limitation Act will not apply to them. But under the Waqf Act 1995, the Waqf is exempted from limitation, meaning thereby you can come to court at any point of time, you can declare any property at Waqf property at any point of time. And the recent example is the temple in Tamil Nadu. The recent example is Taj Mahal. We used to say Taj Mahal is Tejo Mahal. We used to be treated so badly by the left wing historians as well as left wing whatever you can say. But Taj Mahal has been declared as Waqf property in 2005 by Sunni Central Waqf Board. The Archaeological Survey of India is in appeal in the Supreme Court. And there are so many declarations as Waqf by the Waqf Board. So and Limitation Act does not apply to them. So the point is, for Hindus, you have to come to court within a particular period of time, 3 years or 12 years. After that, your remedy is barred. But for them, remedy is not barred. You can come to court at any point of time. Waqf Board is given the status of a parallel government. If you want to file a case against the government under CPC, under section 80, everyone will be knowing here, you have to give a notice of 2 months. Under the Waqf Act 1995, if you want to file a case against the Waqf Board, you have to give them 2 months prior notice, just like parallel government. And the last and not the least, section 108 of the Waqf Act. Now, I'll tell you this story. When India was partitioned, the people who left, the Muslims who left India and they migrated to Pakistan, all those properties came within the purview of Administration of Evacuee Properties Act 1950. And the central government became the custodian of those properties. That all those properties, where Hindus were tenants in all the properties of the central government, they were believing that they will be given ownership of those properties. Rajiv Gandhi government in 1984, by amending the Waqf Act 1954 and by introducing section 66H, H for Himachal Pradesh, gave all those properties to Waqf Board. And today, the Hindus are, earlier they used to pay rent of 100 rupees or 300 rupees, so it didn't matter to them. Now the rent is 1 lakh, 2 lakhs. Punjab, Haryana and various other states of this country are burning because of this issue. And same provision you will find place mentions in section 108 of the Waqf Act. Now, if you compare this, so Waqf is there. Now, if you compare this Waqf with Places of Worship Act, you have blocked an entire civilization from approaching the court. On the one hand, kindly see the dichotomy. On the one hand, you give the power to the Waqf Board to declare any property as Waqf property. If someone is aggrieved, go to Waqf Tribunal, High Court, Supreme Court. On the other hand, if I want to say that Kashi temple is a temple of a Hindu religious identity, they say, no, you can't contest the case in the courts of law. From past 33 years, me and my father are contesting this case on a very trivial point that please allow us to lead evidence. It's now because of the awakening of this civilization that we are getting this opportunity. But from past 30 years, the case didn't move forward. It was pending in Allahabad High Court from 1997 till date. Yeah. It's another matter we researched. Then we filed a separate suit and we got success in that suit through a very narrow legal interpretation that religious character needs to be determined in the suit. But the point is that you are blocking a civilization from filing a case in the court, and on the other hand, you have all the powers to declare anything. I think this is very, very draconian, and someday we all have to collectively stand against these two legal statutes.
I just want to make one small... with the permission of Alo, I just want to add one small little thing. That, Vishnu Jain said that the wealth of the temples is the main motivating factor that the government has intervened. I just want to draw your attention to the fact that in the medieval period, when temples were demolished, there are so many cases where the Hindus would go to that site, that demolished site, and make offerings. And the Mutawalli said, we will allow you to make offerings so long as you give us all the offerings and you don't take the share of the offerings. So this was something that we have to take in mind. We cannot just say that the government has been tempted because the wealth of temples, when there was not much wealth, what was the Mutawallis were still appropriating.
Would you like to come in on all the new things that you have learnt?
अब बचा ही क्या है विष्णु जी ने तो सारा खत्म कर दिया रुला के. No, but when I was talking and I learnt everything about the Waqf Act from the master, the Imam himself, but pun not intended.
Don't call him Imam.
Pandit boliye, Acharya boliye. And I was talking about this in the Times Now studio and I said jocularly, पता लगाओ कहीं ये studio वक्फ लैंड पे नहीं है, वो वक्फ लैंड पे निकला studio. Rahul Shiv Shankar, poor guy. He said this is on 77% of Delhi is on Waqf land. Delhi High Court is on Waqf land. Matlab ye, as you say, and as I write, it's a parallel government. You can't do anything about it. And one person, I see a lot of serious faces, a lot of faces out here who've just like me, despondent. One very stoic face, and it's of my elder brother sitting on the first row is Gautam. Because Gautam loves P.V. Narasimha Rao. He's written a book. Now don't smile, Gautam. From the resolve of P.V. Narasimha Rao, And this has absolutely nothing to do with Gautam's book, which is a fantastic book. Everyone should read it. But, for all those, especially from the right, who think Narasimha Rao was the Hindu Hriday Samrat before BJP came in and all, two of the most draconian acts that have hit 1 billion Hindus like a sledgehammer were brought in by P.V. Narasimha Rao. And no one after him has been able to remove them. One is the Waqf Act and the other is the Places of Worship Act. So when Shankar Iyer, being wrong all the time, not just some of the time, when he says that P.V. Narasimha Rao was the first BJP Prime Minister, was he being ironical? Was he being ironically wrong? Because obviously he was anti-Hindu, but when he says the first BJP Prime Minister was anti-Hindu, was he being right ironically? I don't know about that. But I think one comment I'd like to make, Vishnuji, when you talked about Hindu temples and if the right of deciding where my donation is to be spent the control goes back to the people who are donating, then things would be right. You're partially correct there, but can I also just say that most of the control of the government of the Hindu temples is through the Hindu temple land. And, when you said, Meenakshi said I was one of the first ones to talk about it, certainly not. I'm a student. And the teachers were T.R. Ramesh and J. Sai Deepak and, through his Indic collective and all. And T.R. Ramesh has done some exemplary work, so much so that he will be arrested very soon. That's the hallmark. That's the badge of honor. In fact, let me congratulate the 14 journalists who have been banned by the India Alliance, because that just shows they love India. They are ruthlessly honest and they love India. So that's the way it goes. So, if you read T.R. Ramesh, I have quoted him liberally here. So lakhs of acres of temple land is under the control of the government that is setting rent on it. And the rent is collected is not even 1% of what if it was in private hands, that rent would have been collected. So from 60,000 crores is not even collecting 60 crores. Correct. So, so the corruption is mostly there. The donation, yes, is an issue, but it's not that much of an issue because once you control the property, you control it for perpetuity. So that is one issue. Very briefly, I wanted to make a larger comment, when Meenakshi ji has written, I'll be very brief. When Meenakshi ji talked about Mathura, and you read her book about Mathura, about Ram and Ayodhya, and then you read the history that, Jai Sai has talked about, Vishnu ji, his father has been fighting for true Indology, who, if he's not still hanging from a nearest lamppost, is still available, his inspiration. Then you realize about this what if dogma of history. What if things had been different, What if the Hindu kings had acted a little bit differently, or something different had happened 500, 600 years ago? We wouldn't be in this situation. So, to give you a background of Mathura, Aurangzeb broke the temple, the Krishna Janam Sthan. He took the idols from there. He broke those idols and he put those idols on the steps of the Begum Masjid so that worshippers going in would trod on them. This was the abject humiliation. And this happened, it wasn't just Aurangzeb who did it. Almost every, invader or Muslim emperor worth his or her salt did it. But the tragedy is, for some point of time, Mathura was under the control of the Marathas. Had they wrenched it back, we possibly wouldn't be fighting for it. That is the what if that I ask. Why didn't the Marathas reclaim Krishna Janam Bhoomi?
No, they did. The point is that when they won the Battle of Govardhan in 1770, then this whole area came under Maratha control, and they declared Katra Keshav Dev as Nazur land, government land. And the Mutawallis of the Eidgah actually left that place because they said, now we have to earn our living somewhere else. The point, what happened was that in 1803, the East India Company won the battle against the Marathas. So this came under East India Company control. But just to clarify, I want to say that the British, at the risk of sounding politically incorrect, I found the British very sympathetic to Indian causes, particularly on temples. Their policy was very different from the Mughal policy. They, I think about 15 or 20 cases on Krishna Janam Bhoomi were heard in the Mathura district court by British judges. And each and every judge gave such a wonderful judgment, examining the issue at length and telling the Eidgah party, you have no case, please go.
I'm wrecked by one thought which I put in a very minuscule way because it's a small book. I've often wondered about this very macabre thought, which is better from the other side, to destroy a temple or to control a temple. Because once you destroy the temple is gone. You will not affect the future generations. But the Brits didn't destroy the temples. No. They controlled it. Which is worse? A destroyed temple or a controlled temple? That is the question. It's a very troubling question. And I don't know. I don't feel the Brits were much better off than the people who destroyed the temples in that sense.
I think they were much better off. But I just want to make one final comment on what Vishnu Jain said. And that is that we should remember the mills of the gods grind slowly, but they grind exceedingly fine. So my question to you is that ASI report will be submitted next month.
Yes.
210% the ASI report will say that there was a temple beneath. My question to you is, what will the court do now?
See, the point is that this entire exercise in Gyanvyapi and in Kashi, what we undertook for an ASI survey, this entire exercise is with a very, very important objective to prove our point through scientific study that this is not having any characteristics of a mosque. Beneath these three central domes, still there is Hindu Mandir Shikhar. The western wall is shouting and saying that it's a ruins of a Hindu temple. There is a Shivlingam which is in the Vazu tank, which they are not ready to investigate. We are saying it's a Shivlingam, they say it's a fountain. We got an order from the Allahabad High Court on 12th of May that this Shivlingam must be investigated. They went in appeal in the Supreme Court and got a stay of that order. It's a different matter that we are trying to make all the endeavors to get that stay order vacated and let that area be also investigated. But the point is, I'm coming to a question that when the ASI will submit a report, and the legal answer is this, it's a report as an expert opinion under section 45 of Indian Evidence Act.
Yes.
And that report will be read in the trial. It will become part of the record of the court, just like Ram Mandir case.
Yes.
And after that, I'm just telling you on this platform that once the ASI gives its report, and after digging, because let me tell you, this is a report without digging.
Yes.
So we want digging in that premises in question. Digging has to happen in this premises in question, as Mr. Ranganathan had just told, that when digging happened in Ram Mandir, so many things were found. So many things will be found when digging will happen in this place. But when digging happens, we get an order of digging in Gyanvapi, and that's the final stage of ASI report. Once that report is submitted to the court, we will frame issues, we will lead evidence, and then the matter will be, ultimately judgment will be passed by the court.
At the risk of derailing. Okay.
Before you ask the question, I just clarify this. It's not just land. Hundreds of crores of rupees of Tirupati temple are used for state purposes, for madrasas, for churches. And if you want to see, when I started digging on this temple issue, Denino has a wonderful book, Mr. Denino, who has given all these details. Thirdly, one more point. Another law which can be easily scrapped is 93rd Amendment to Right to Education, which is basically totally anti-Hindu, totally anti-majority, as you put it. Yeah, please.
Okay.
I just wanted to say something that, we would be failing in our objective, this wonderful, amazing panel, if we didn't provide a solution. Was it? Okay. Then
So just before that, Ratanji, one last time, and then the rounding up question. Do I need this? Yes. There are two legislations that we are also fighting against. One is that the legislation against the Hindus continuously get amended, but no other community is touched that way. And the other one is that we are the ones. We sort of also preserve at our detriment things that are pretty regressive in other religions that are somehow perpetuated by law. So could you give us your perspective on these two aspects that he discusses in the book? And then I'll ask my round of question. Anyway.
Yeah, there are two questions actually.
Yeah.
So
I'm combining both.
Yeah, so first question was?
First one is that our laws have got continuously amended.
I think Anand has touched it in a big way
Yeah,
in his book.
he's done a very good job.
I think this urge to reform Hindu society is there since 1947, the day Constitution was made. When Hindu Code Bill was introduced, it's actually supposed to be Uniform Civil Code. But Nehru got cold feet. He said, मुसलमानों को हाथ नहीं लगाना, चिढ़ जाएंगे. Some such dialogue it made. So हिंदुओं को तो हम सुधार सकते हैं. तो हिंदुओं को सुधारने का ठेका तब से गवर्नमेंट ने ले लिया, सेक्युलर पार्टीज ने ले लिया, उसके बाद कोर्ट्स ने ले लिया. हर कोर्ट की जजमेंट के हिंदुओं को सुधारती है. They only, I'm sorry, a lot of English speaking people. So all the laws are basically to reform Hindus because they are open to reforms. No other religion is open to reforms. So why touch them? This shows such a hypocrisy of secular state, where the modern state is supposed to keep equidistant or treat all the religions equal. That is the first flaw that is there in the so-called secular state of India. So unless these laws are touched, there is no solution. Whether BJP touches in this term or the next term, these laws have to go. Whether it's law of right to education, 93rd Amendment, whether it is even there is a limitation of payment when it is done. Payment was not in time. Thousands of schools have shut, as he has already put in. So this is one point. Other is Waqf board, which should just simply be scrapped. Let there be a new law. Because there is no solution. It is so complicated. Right from for 54, it has been amended to the disadvantage of the majority of the population, including the government. It keeps on, it is a serpentine kind of thing. It has to go and new law can be brought in. And third is temple control, where I said the government should say we will not control, we will create a, SOP. This is how temples shall be run. And if they don't run that way, then government can do something. Issue
Just
is
to
that
interject,
you
he
are
just informed me that they also declared Allahabad High Court as Waqf land.
yeah. So in
Allahabad High Court
fact,
went in
there is a
appeal.
judgment. If you remember, Allahabad High Court had a mosque, illegal mosque. It took 5 years for Allahabad High Court to get an order from Supreme Court to remove it, and then finally three more months to remove it. Actually, that is a state of affair here. So just to show that we are always, supporting minorities, or we are very careful about minorities, everybody wants to pile on Hindus. So that awakening that we see today, the sense of injustice that people understand now, Hindus understand now, will also take away this continuous, attack on Hindus. I think this government realizes it. It has too much on its plate. I'm very sure these things also come up sooner or later as things change. Second question was?
While amending us, we actually perpetuate laws that are actually pretty against human rights. Like, for
exactly,
instance, child marriage is 15 years.
Yeah.
Those somehow are sacrosanct and aren't touched. Whereas Vishnuji pointed out in another session there, it's actually penal, it's an offense.
Marriage of minor girl is a crime.
Yes.
But our high courts have passed judgments.
So if a Hindu did that, we'd be punished under the
So
penal
are we a
act,
Sharia
right?
court?
Whereas,
My question is, are we a Sharia court where a high court decides because it is a Muslim personal law board, a girl can be married off even if she is minor?
So they have to accept polygamy,
when
which
they
is
say
not
there is-
contested, the
when there is a
hijab, which is not contested.
When they talk of fundamental rights, when they talk of fundamental structure of the constitution, how come High Court says that under Muslim personal law, I can allow a minor girl to be married off? That is a question that courts have to answer before government answers it. Because these are very open cases. We can clearly see that courts have got certain myopic view of the entire constitution or the human rights, and or they're afraid to say one Shah Bano and everybody's gone silent after that. Only one Shah Bano.
So now I'm doing this under pressure from Anand because he insisted that the audience should be given time to ask questions. Therefore, closing remarks, Meenakshi.
Let the audience ask.
No, I want to ask it because Anand also wants solutions from you.
Okay.
So, you've all read the book. So, do you think this is like a dirge, like a requiem to the Hindus? Are we a perpetually shrinking population, or do you think that we have hope? Do you think things are changing? Are we at an inflection point?
See, there are two issues. One is demographics, which is very difficult to fix. Ask any Hindu, do they have 2 children? Half of the hall will say they don't have. The new couples. So whom are you blaming? But as far as Hindus are concerned, I'm very sure it is not a requiem. Hindus will rise. They are already rising. They will fight for the civilization. And civilization will stay strong. As far as demographic goes, we do not know how many years it takes to surrender the democracy to the Sharia rules. But at least, as of now, I'm very confident that we are going to stay united and do some great work together and see that renaissance of Hindu society remains the bedrock of our democracy.
Meenakshi ji, your life work is validated?
No, I think that social media has played a very, very important role in empowering Hindus who had no voice till now. Every Hindu felt discriminated against, but every Hindu was not a scholar or a historian or a public speaker, and they just kept their views to themselves. But suddenly they have found a voice in social media, and they're venting their angst in social media. They're becoming very aware, very enlightened, and things like Anand's book are giving them a voice. And I hope that there'll be some way out, because Hindus are very patient people. For 500 years, they struggled to get one temple back. Whereas when the Arab armies invaded Spain, they converted every cathedral into a mosque. But when the Spaniards threw out the Arabs, they reconverted every masjid into a cathedral. We have taken 500 years to take back one temple. And as I told you that you will get 2 more back, which are very important because of 2 Jains sitting over here. So I'm hopeful.
So Vishnu ji, you are a warrior. So obviously, I really have to wind up.
The way Hindus have awakened, the way RS is being badgered for not doing enough, shows that Hindus have actually awakened because they were awakened by RSS itself.
My father was RSS, and I believe you.
One request to Anand, because only he can put emotions to that, page number 103, your poem on the Nandi.
Can I just get Vishnuji's? I want a warrior to speak. Can I get your closing comments on whether we are fighting a losing battle or we are going to win?
See, not at all. When I've come here in the stall only, I have seen book of Mr. G.D. Bakshi, where he has said that how this civilization has fought. So we Sanatanis, no matter how much attacks happen to us, no matter how many Nalandas are destroyed and burnt, again we will rebuild. And this Pondy Lit Fest, the book stall we have here, the epitome of knowledge we have in this collection, it's a great example that even if you burn Nalandas, even if you burn everything, then also we'll again come up and again we will survive. So I don't think that we can ever be destroyed. Sanatan can never be destroyed. It was there before the existence of the world, and it will be there till the end of this world. So Sanatan can never be destroyed. And this entire fight of Gyan Vyapi, Mathura and all these things is to give a message that no matter you destroy my temple, even after 500 years, 600 years, we will again wake up and say that this place we used to worship, give it back to us.
Yeah, first of all, thank you to each one of you for excellent comments and commentary on it. But I want to say something which many might not find to their liking, but it's fine, we are in a family. 3 or 4 things. विकल्प क्या है, solution क्या है? एक हिंदू के लिए जो कि for a Hindu, if he sees injustice being done, not only towards him, his culture, his civilization, his ancestors, his solution is to vote in a government that promises it will work for the Hindu interests. I don't want him to, undertake things that the leftists do, indulge in anarchy, camp outside Supreme Court, break buildings, do that, right? Now, he votes in a government that promises it will work for Hindu interests. Now, Ratanji said quite correctly कि Hindu जाग गया है. There is no doubt about it. But my thing is, अगर जागा हुआ हिंदू कुछ कर नहीं पाए तो उससे बेहतर है कि वो सोता रहे. What is more frustrating? That you are ignorant and asleep, or that you are aware and you've woken up and you're impotent? That's the question we must ask. So now, it's not that I'm talking in 2015 and castigating the Modi government कि अरे 1 साल हो गया कुछ किया नहीं. We are in 2023. It's been 10 years. Let's go by each one of these 8 so-called reasons that determine our citizenship, which is 8th class. And let us see. And I think this, Alo, just very briefly, I've often wondered over the past 1 month why it's been a month and this book, thanks, in no small effort to Praveenji and Blue One Ink, has remained #1 bestseller. It's astonishing. I never expected it. It remains for a week, 10 days, but for a month, 35,000 copies sold. I think the reason is people saw this book not as something to beat the opposition or the erstwhile Congress governments with, I don't say, yes, it is an unwritten thing. These are the faults of the government. I took the name of Narasimha Rao. Congress has done this. But I think it resonated because people genuinely Hindus feel that for 10 years we've had a Hindu government. If you are not able to change the evils that were perpetrated by the previous governments, who will? Will the India Alliance do all these things? Should we vote them in? That's the question. That is why there is resonance and people are awakened, but I don't want them to feel impotent. You look at the 8 very briefly. State control of Hindu temples. BJP is controlling more Hindu temples than Congress was. Injustice towards Kashmiri Hindus. It's been 33 years. 16 of those years have been under BJP government. They still remain refugees in their own land. The Waqf Act, Ratanji says, should be abrogated. 9 years was not enough. The RT Act, Ratanji says quite correctly, 93rd Amendment is the most draconian one, indiscriminatory one. Who supported to bring that in? It was BJP. Who has had 9 years to abrogate it? BJP hasn't done it. You look at legislations that appease non-Hindus but target Hindus. If Congress could abrogate the Supreme Court judgment, overturn the Supreme Court judgment on Shah Banu, why couldn't a Hindu Rashtra fascist Hindutva government overturn the Sabrimala judgment? Did it not have a stick to beat the Congress with? It hasn't. You look at judiciary that almost exclusively tries to reform Hinduism. This is not the government's fault. But then again, the point is, here we have a minister who's in charge of Hindu endowments, okay, attending a conference that says eradicate Sanatan Dharma in Hinduism. And nothing has been done about that minister. Just today, 4 hours ago, the Supreme Court, through the Chief Justice, has rejected a petition to urgently look into the matter of what Sanatan Dharma must be eradicated, Stalin has said. The same Supreme Court wakes up suddenly at 2 o'clock in the morning to give bail and to hear petitions for terrorists. So that's another thing. Celebrating those who killed and converted millions of Hindus. Now here is the most painful, when you have ministers saying that we are proud to not having even removed one comma or a full stop in those defunct, hurtful to the eye and to the mind textbooks that give us wrong history. Ministers are proud. Where you have a prime minister chadawing chadar on the mazar of a man who wanted to convert and kill Hindus. Here you have a prime minister who's venerating a saint who was almost the architect or harbinger of the Goan Inquisition. Ignorance starts like charity from home. What has this government done? And finally, Places of Worship Act, the most cruel and most painful act. It's not that you had 1 year to act on it. You had 10 years. Why are you waiting for the Supreme Court to have a look at this act? Abrogate it. So that is why, Alo, it has found resonance, that people are feeling, even though a lot of them love and are sympathetic towards the BJP, they love Prime Minister Modi, they're probably going to vote them again, including that Raskala Abhijit Iyer Mitra who's sitting at the back. But they're asking questions. That this book is not castigating the Congress. Right from the first paragraph, it is saying if the Congress could do this, why can't the BJP? What is stopping that? That is why the resonance is there. Thank you.
Audience questions. Audience questions.
I haven't blamed the RSS at all.
Keep the
30
questions
seconds,
short.
30 seconds.
Do not opine, just ask the question directly.
Right. My name is Sanjam Sachdeva. I work as a user.
Keep the mic close to you.
Hi, Namaskaram. My name is Sanjam Sachdeva. I work as a user experience designer with the ministry. My question is that we have so much of land to the Muslim population and we still call them as minority in this country. So why do we call the power as only the population index, not that the power of properties or the assets, and multiply with the number of people living in the country and then call them a minority and withdraw their rights on the country? Why are we having rules and regulations which are not supportive of the country?
So we'll ask a minority.
Other than to say that we are doing this because we are in the Islamic Republic of India. But
See, your question is absolutely right. And the entire fallacy of this entire minoritism has happened because of the judgment passed by the Supreme Court in TMA Pai. Now, this is the first time in Indian legal history that a 11-judge bench gives a judgment and no one understands it. I'm seriously telling you. Then again a 6-judge bench judgment sat, PA Namdar. And the first line of PA Namdar is that before the ink on the opinion of TMA Pai were yet to dry, this courts were flooded with so many litigations to understand the ratio of TMA Pai. So ultimately the point is this, that in TMA Pai judgment, the Supreme Court has said who will be minority? Whoever is less than 50% in a state will be minority. Whether minority will be decided nation-wise or state-wise, they say that minorities will be decided state-wise. So the point is this, the entire
But Vishnu,
fallacy...
just a moment. But why minorities by state-wise not yet being accepted?
That's another thing.
No,
But I'm
despite
telling you
the judgment, I didn't know there was judgment like this.
Yeah, there is a
Despite this, government goes to the courts saying we have not decided.
So the point is this, that that's a separate aspect, that Hindus are minority in 8 states. That's a separate aspect. But I am saying the question is that I am completely against this concept of minority. The entire seeds of this minoritism has been sowed in our constitution by virtue of Article 30 subclause 1. And recently I came with an example of an educational institution. The name of the educational institution is MTV Buddhist. And they want students in UP to be enrolled as Buddhist. Many students converted to get education. So there are many more institutions like this in Islamic institutions also. But the point is, your question is absolutely right, that there should be no concept of minoritism. And this is what the Bal Patil judgment of Supreme Court said, that minoritism will lead to multinationalism.
So very thankful. So we might not be controlling temples, but temple bells at least we can control. So I think requesting Alo to give 10-15 minutes more to. Oh, it has? Okay, wonderful. No, but just to, can I just add very quickly to that before Abhijit asks the question? Again, I come back to this, that what is better is a very wrong word, but what is better, a destroyed temple for Hindus or a controlled temple for Hindus? And I say that again because when you talked about minorities, I suddenly remembered, and I asked this question, what is better, Congress or the BJP? Congress would destroy, BJP would control and not act. And what Congress meant to destroy on this minority was through the communal violence bill. I don't know how many of you know of that, and it's in this book. It is astonishing. In any riot, the Congress almost passed that bill that the guilty would be the majority. Even in Kashmir, if there was a riot where Hindus are 2%, Muslims are 98%, but because Muslims are minority in India, Hindus would be held guilty in a riot like that. And you talk to, I've quoted Harsh Mandar there, who was the architect of this, I don't know what to call it, macabre, this thing. He said, well, because Muslims have faced so much discrimination, we felt the time was ripe to bring in such an act. Even for sexual assaults, the majority would have been held guilty. This is what Congress can bring to the table. So, no doubt about it, BJP would never do that. So, maybe inaction is better than destruction, I don't know.
Any other questions?
Hi, Anand. So,
Whom are you addressing it to?
Anand.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I think one topic that probably needs to be covered a lot in this subject is Hindus being able to run their own educational institutions. Because firstly, that's a very
Your question, please. Your question.
The question is with regards to the larger narrative that you're driving through this book. How important do you think that is? Because a Hindu, an example here, a Manipuri Hindu, a Kashmiri Hindu, a Tamil Hindu, do not come together in any institutional framework as a community and engage in social action. So I think an educational institution is a very important part. So where do you think that fits?
If other panelists would like to take it, but I certainly very quickly answer you in 2 points. One, I've talked about the RT Act, which is blatantly discriminatory towards Hindus running institutions, as you call them, because only they are given the onus of, talking about 25% reservations for the economically weaker section because of the 93rd Amendment. So Hindu-run schools are being shut down. And number two, when I talked about the government controlling the rent that it must beget from the temples, and when you expect a rent of 6,000 crores and you collect only 60 crores, though 5,940 odd crores could go into making hundreds, if not thousands of Ved Pashalas and Hindu schools that you talk of. So it is, the candle is burning from both sides, constitutionally as well as, through legal means.
No, I would also like to add to this question. See, the biggest discrimination I would not like to take much of time, but I'll elaborate through an example. Is it possible that I do my religious studies, my Shastrik studies, my Dharmic studies from nursery and I become a lawyer? Is it possible for me? According to me, it's not possible. But a Muslim, he can write from nursery up till professional education. He can read his Islam, he can read his Hadith, he can read his Quran. A Christian can have all the facilities of reading Old Testament and New Testament, and they can become lawyer, doctor, engineers, and despite being funded by the state government and the central government. But that facility is not available to us. That's why there are no gurukuls.
Partly wrong there, because from nursery I studied Quran and I'm a scientist, so that's not.
But I think there was
Okay.
a judgment about it that a Shastri cannot be considered a graduate. I think something like that. That is what, yeah.
Our degrees are not recognized by the government. Our degrees, our institutions are not affiliated by the government. So that's what the problem lies. This question is never
Yeah.
higher education.
So, can we, Abhijit, your question?
Yeah. Whoever wants to take it, one quick question, and depending on the answer, the next question. Do you believe in Prime Minister Modi's political genius? That his political sense is extraordinary. Do you believe that? Anand?
वैसे इतनी ट्रोलिंग होती और पिटवाओगे.
एक क्वेश्चन, एक शब्द में बोल. Yes. Okay.
Yes. Shall I explain why or?
No,
Another
not
sparring
needed.
partner is there.
Not needed.
Your sparring partner is there. Azad.
Not needed. So I'll go to the second question. The question actually. So would you rather have the government, all this that we have been discussing have come to us over 1,000 years, maybe a little more, of invasions, colonial slavery, etc., etc., and then Nehru chose an extension of that. Would you rather the government in, say, 10, 15 years try to address every single massive problem, absolutely sincerely, take it head on and probably lose power? Or rather, be in power for 30, 40 years and, change it over the course of time, even if it looks weak and indecisive now?
Right, that's a huge question. Wonderful question. My first answer was yes. And let me connect it with my second answer, which is that this essentially is a book written for and read by the middle class, upper middle class. Let's be very honest about it. Okay? 90% of India doesn't care two hoots about who's controlling Hindu temples, what the hell is Waqf Act, who the hell is going to Hindu school or RTE, and whether Prime Minister is chalawing chadar on Chishti or whatever. They don't. Because they have to worry about the next meal. They have to earn 10 rupees. They have to earn dihadi. And when I said yes, that's why I said yes, because Modi realized it. Before these questions can be answered, the revolution will come not on an empty stomach. People will not think about these questions. If they don't have health insurance, if they don't have toilets, if they don't have gas cylinders, if they don't have all those amenities that Modi said in 2009, and people I keep repeating, his most iconic speech was, which most people missed, which is what usually happens in iconic speeches. But he said, I am going to create, if I come to power, a nano class. People overlooked that speech because people didn't know what the hell nano class is. There was a lower class or economically weaker section, that social strata, and there was the middle class or lower middle class. He said that nano class will be a class that will come up very quickly, and that will have all these amenities, tap water, electricity, water connection, health insurance. And after this class comes up, these questions, this book will be read by that class 15 years from now. That is his political genius. But can I also add a caveat? In striving for correctly putting amenities on the table first and foremost with, yes, you must, banks and, accounts. Let's not forget that these are also so terribly connected. I just gave you the one example. If Hindu temples had 60,000 crores to spend, they would spend it on tens of thousands of schools to which those economically deprived people could then go, which is what Muslims and Christians are doing. They are imparting their religious education to those people. So by the time, according to Modi thought, our generation or Hindus come to the stage where they start thinking about this, it might be too late. I don't know, Meenakshi ji will be able
Anand,
to...
two things. One is, if you remember,
We'll need
Modi
to
ji
wind
also
up.
talked about pehle toilet, fir mandir. And that is when this all revolution started. Finally, mandir also came up. Secondly, about the laws. See, we have to keep on reminding the government. It will take its own time, but we must not forget. We must not say government doesn't listen. So our job is to keep on reminding the government, keep on hammering the point home, so they realize ये भी करना है.
तारीख पे तारीख पे तारीख.
अरे 70 साल की तारीखों के बाद तारीख लगी है ना 2014 की.
So I think with
Well,
this,
I am. Though I criticize Modi ji and BJP on many points, including these points, I still believe it's better to have a BJP government than a Congress government which has a communal violence bill. Yeah.
that's the thing about no other option, and the other one is that there is no other alternative. Yeah, sure.
Can I suddenly be the part of the India Alliance and ban him?
We'll make that our last question.
You know, the problem is not whether one is ignorant or impotent. The problem is, Anand, that one is unnecessarily argumentative. And I'll tell you what happens because of this argumentative attitude. Before 2014, nobody in this room was thinking about 370 being abrogated. Before 2014, nobody in this room was thinking about Ram Mandir being built. Before 2014, nobody thought Kashi Vishwanath Dham would be built. Nobody thought Ujjain Mahakal Lok would be done. Nobody thought Somnath would be extended. Nobody thought that a large number of things, including the communal violence bill, would not be seeing the light of day. Nobody ever thought that Gyan Vapi would reach the courts, and a via medium has been found through the Place of Worship Act, through the courts, where they have said that determining the character of the place can be allowed. Nobody thought in their right mind, but problem is that when you talk about the other side, they are very clear. They do not get into, oh, all this has been done, but this hasn't been done, and therefore I will go and pledge my support to somebody else. And you've seen the consequences of that in West Bengal and in Karnataka. The same arguments, Anand, you and I on many debates, you made all those arguments. Today you have a government in Karnataka that repealed the conversion law, anti-conversion law. You have a government that says that we will bat for cow slaughter, and you now have a government that would potentially bring back religious-based reservations which the BJP kicked out. Yes, the BJP is not a social organization, it is not an NGO, it is not the Congress party, it is a political organization. And therefore it has to keep in mind the political context of things and international context of things. But the problem is that even after doing all of these things that were not imaginable prior to 2014, we have the argumentative Anand, who then does not allow the Hindu to unite. And that's the problem. It's not about ignorant or impotent. It's about united Hindu. You divide sometimes on caste, sometimes on argumentation. And this is the reason they unite, they mobilize, you don't.
Shahzad, you touched a chord. I am one of the people who actually was fighting for the Ram temple, right? I don't know how many people here are actually involved in Ram agitation. Yes. So I don't know how many people actually were involved in Ram temple agitation. I was. And honestly, we didn't believe that we'll see the temple in a lifetime. Still, we went on fighting. So there is a change. We must appreciate that.
I'm going to conclude this now. This has to come to an end. But having said that,
Not before I have my 10 seconds.
I'm your foot soldier, Anand. Take me for it. If this book hasn't united Indians, if this book hasn't given us all a common sense of argument and a common sense of understanding what we are up against, I think no other book will unite us. And I do not think this is divisive. I think knowledge is power. Knowledge is power, and this book empowers us all. We should all read it. Yeah, 10 minutes.
I just wanted to say that 12 न्यूज चैनल्स के पैनलिस्ट शहजाद को ढूंढ रहे हैं. शहजाद को हराना मुश्किल ही नहीं, नामुमकिन है.
Okay.
Last
we
request.
conclude this session now. Now Vikram has to take
I
the
want
stage.
Anand to read this poem because it's very
It's
touching.
really-
That will be right way to close this session.
Okay, fine.
Just 10 lines.
These words actually came to me when, in fact, on the night that Vishnu ji declared to ANI that Shivling has been found. And before that, and even after that, the other party said, nothing doing, this is a place for wuzu, this is a fountain. And I just thought, why is it? Even if you believe that it is a fountain, it is not a Shivling. Why do you have to continue that tradition of Aurangzeb and Khilji to humiliate the other side? That is what it was. Can you not look at Nandi who's waiting patiently? So these were the lines that came on that day. So Vishnuji is the inspiration for that. His legs buckled, his eyes wet, carved in stone, but heart beset. He sat outside with perked up ears, waiting patiently for 400 years. He saw the monster and his hordes charge his lord with rusted swords. He saw them wash, he saw them spit in those waters of the pit. He heard their cries, he heard their call. He lived through it, he saw it all. But not a whisper, not a groan. Life he knew was but on loan. And then, after centuries of pain, when his moment of joy came, he saw them claim that it was just a fountain.